Black mechanic fixes billionaire's jet. She canceled her flight and proposed to him. The Arizona sun was brutal that afternoon, painting the tarmac in a heat haze shimmer. The private hangar at Prescott Regional Airport buzzed with tension as technicians scrambled over a sleek, gleaming Gulfstream G700. It belonged to Clarissa Morgan, billionaire tech mogul, Forbes, Woman of the Year, and CEO of the fastest-growing AI company in the United States. Known for her ruthless business instincts and punctuality, Clarissa never delayed a flight, until that day. In the shadows of the hangar, beneath the belly of the jet, 34-year-old Eli Carter wiped sweat from his brow with the back of a grease-streaked glove. A seasoned aircraft mechanic with hands that had rebuilt engines since age 15, Eli worked in silence. He didn't speak much, he didn't need to. His work had always spoken for him. That day, his reputation was on the line. The Gulfstream's diagnostics had flagged a critical hydraulic failure. None of the other techs could fix it. Clarissa's pilot had already warned her, flight cancelled. We'll need to fly in parts from Denver. But Eli wasn't convinced. He crouched under the aircraft like a surgeon over a patient, feeling each bolt, each vibration in the metal, listening with a mechanic's sixth sense, the kind born of years under the hoods of broken-down cars in his father's now-closed repair shop on the south side of Chicago. With sweat pouring and time ticking, Eli worked without distraction. He didn't know this was Clarissa Morgan's jet. He didn't care. All he saw was a machine in distress. Clarissa stood nearby, phone in hand, frustration in her voice as she barked at her assistant. This delay is costing me a $10 million contract. I don't do late. But then she saw him, this man who looked entirely out of place among her usual circle of engineers and executives. Black coveralls stained with oil, dreadlocks tied back, deep brown eyes filled with quiet focus. There was no panic in his movements, only purpose. Something about the way he touched the plane, not just with tools, but with intuition, made her pause. "Who's that?" she asked the hangar supervisor. "Elijah Carter. Local contractor." "Brilliant, but," the man hesitated. "Not exactly corporate material." Clarissa frowned. "Meaning?" "He doesn't talk much. Keeps to himself. Doesn't chase titles. He just fixes things." 2 hours passed. Eli emerged from under the jet, wiped his hands, and calmly walked to the pilot. "Try it now," he said. The jet whirred to life, hydraulics humming perfectly. No errors. No warnings. The pilot's eyes widened. "Impossible. How'd you do that?" Eli just shrugged. "Wasn't impossible. Just overlooked." Clarissa walked over, her heels clicking sharply on the polished floor. "You fixed it," she said, her voice edged with disbelief. Eli nodded, not knowing who she was. "That's my job." She studied him. "You didn't even know whose plane it was, did you?" "Didn't matter. It needed fixing." That simple response hit her like a gut punch. Clarissa had spent her life around people who wanted something, money, fame, leverage. But this man had worked through blistering heat without any awareness of status, not for a bonus, not for recognition, just to make something right. She canceled her flight. "I want to take you to dinner," she said suddenly. Eli blinked. "Ma'am? Dinner? You saved my company $10 million and my reputation. Least I can do." Eli hesitated. "I'm not really a dinner type of guy." "Then let's call it a conversation," she said with a smile. "I want to know how you see the world." They met that night at a small diner just outside town. Eli showed up in clean jeans and a button-up shirt. Clarissa came in no makeup, hair tied back, dressed in a hoodie. It was the first quiet night she'd had in years. He told her about his mother, how she'd worked 2 jobs to keep food on the table. About his dream of opening an aviation training school for underprivileged kids. About the time he dropped out of college because he couldn't afford tuition and refused to take a loan he knew he'd never repay. Clarissa listened, captivated. Not just by his story, but by how little resentment he carried. No bitterness. No entitlement. Just quiet pride and an unwavering sense of right and wrong. She found herself laughing, really laughing, for the first time in a long time. For weeks after, Clarissa kept thinking about Eli. She invited him to events, he declined. She offered him a job at her firm, he refused politely. "I belong in hangars, not boardrooms," he said. But she wasn't deterred. Instead, she began showing up at his shop with coffee and questions. She'd sit beside him, watching as he restored a 1970s Cessna with the patience of a sculptor. Bit by bit, their bond deepened, not through grand gestures, but through small, consistent moments. One evening, as they watched the sun set from the wing of that old Cessna, Clarissa turned to him. "You changed something in me, Eli." He smiled. "Nah. Maybe you just slowed down long enough to hear yourself think." She leaned closer. "You showed me what real strength looks like." Then, without warning, she reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a simple ring. "No diamond, no fanfare. I don't want another deal or a merger," she said. "I want a life with someone real. Someone who knows how to fix things when they're broken, even hearts. Will you marry me?" Eli stared at her, stunned. "Clarissa. I'm just a mechanic. You're the man who saw value where others saw nothing. Who healed what everyone else gave up on. That's not just anything." He looked at her, this billionaire with the world at her feet, offering him something no one ever had. A future built on mutual respect, not status. With mist in his eyes, he nodded. "Yes. I will." Their wedding wasn't held in a ballroom. It was on a runway, under open skies, surrounded by the people Eli grew up with, and a few corporate types who had never seen a love story like this unfold. Clarissa funded Eli's dream school, which now teaches underprivileged youth how to become certified aviation techs. They named it Carter Wings. Years later, when a news anchor asked Clarissa why she fell in love with a man so far outside her world, she simply said, "Because he taught me the only thing more powerful than money, is purpose." The most extraordinary changes often begin in the most ordinary places. True worth isn't measured by wealth or titles, but by how deeply we care, how quietly we serve, and how selflessly we love. In a world obsessed with image, it's the unseen acts of integrity that shape the most beautiful legacies.